I've instructed the panel to be as honest as humanly possible, or as honest as they are comfortable being. So hopefully we'll get lots of really great insight. So I'm going to really allow them to introduce themselves. I've asked them to please just, like, how long you've been teaching here, in which discipline, sort of a little general overview of what life was like when you started here, and maybe if you can talk about your experience, your first semester teaching, and sort of how that's now, what's sort of changed over the years would be awesome. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandi Fife. I've been teaching in the English department for 8 or 9 years, I think, 8 or 9 years. My first semester, I had one course. I taught over in the brand new Bertillon building, and I was pregnant, so it was probably a little bit of a different experience. The English department, and just generally speaking, I find Salem State to be very supportive. I feel like we have some of the best adjunct support, because I teach in other places as well. I've always been very comfortable here.
Can you just tell everybody where else you teach?
I teach at North Shore, which they also have some pretty good professional development. I've also done some freelance writing. This is definitely something that you don't rely on any one particular place where you're teaching. You always kind of have a carousel, I guess, so that you can have steady income.
Like that
Yeah.
You should teach English.
Makes it sound like fun, right?
Sometimes it is.
Well,
Yeah. My name is Julie Batten, and I also teach in the English department. I've been teaching at Salem State for 7 years. I teach writing courses, advanced writing, creative writing, foundations of writing. The latest is healthcare writing, which includes narrative medicine and narrative writing for healthcare professionals, which I'm really excited about. I also teach at UMass Boston. I teach a course there on narrative medicine and also on homelessness and the recurring cycle of shame. And that is because I run, it's not its own 501c3, we've sort of been floating along on grants and handouts as they come in, so I've been lucky enough not to have to do the business of that yet, but it's called the Glass House Shelter Project, and I bring college-level reading and writing courses into homeless shelters in the same way that they've been doing in prisons for years. So it's a little bit harder sell because in a prison situation you can say, hey, if you take this course, you get to leave sooner, but you can see why that doesn't work in a homeless shelter. So, but that's one of my great passions anyway. And I think in terms of Salem State, you know, I have a lot of issues with the whole system right now. The fact that 70% of the university system is running on, you know, an adjunct sort of situation is not okay. But given that it is what it is, Salem State pays us better than most universities, and they definitely provide a lot of support. Deborah in particular has been amazing at that. It's a relatively new thing, but it's been amazing. So I'll shut up for now, but there's more.
How are you? That's how I start every class. Oh, my name is Gregory Levis. I'm in psychology, or what is supposed to be psychology. I'm frequently not quite sure what it is when I'm done with it. It's one of those things. But like Sandy, I've taught at North Shore as well, and a few courses at Montserrat College of Art. I've been around for, I had to go back and think, it's about 24 years here between the two schools, and I can echo, okay, several things. They don't mess with your pay. I've had jobs over my lifespan where you couldn't always say that, all right? But the paychecks will be good, they'll be regular. Any question that I've ever had of anybody in any department, any office, maintenance, facilities, or anything else, it's all about the students. You will get an answer right away and right back on it. If you do not yet know your department chair, get in touch with them right away. How many are first year adjuncts? Get in touch with your department chair as soon as possible. Their office hours will be posted. And, you know, within their hours, see if you can come over, buy them a cup of coffee or something like that. They will want to know you, and they will take care of any problem that you might have. If they don't have the answer to it, they will direct you to a faculty member in the department that say, oh, gee, Greg, that's that's Sharon's department or whatever, put you right in touch, so forth. It can't be enough. Also, adjuncts here are not treated as the enemy. I have a number of friends at other schools, and a lot of schools, when you go in, it's like the adjuncts are there to steal their lunch. The full-time professors can not just be clannish, but they'll slash your tires if they can figure where you're parked, okay? You're looked at as the enemy, okay? And here you're not, okay? They're very gracious. They can't run the joint without us. The pay is higher, okay, than at other places, and the support is excellent. And students here are terrific as well. I get a great deal of, the older I get a great deal of enjoyment being around young people. And very engaged. And glad to be here as well. So I've taught from 7th grade on up, taught in a vocational high school and so forth, so you can't always get that, but the kids will bring their own energy from their side, okay, of it. And get that damn syllabus out to them the first day. If it's not perfect, you can revise it later on, but we need to let them know, like, we ought to be there up in front, and that shows them that we're organized, and that's a great confidence builder for them. I also tell my freshmen, because they're mostly all freshmen nowadays, among the first thing I tell them where the toilets are, because there are still some kids that come in that think you have to put your hand up, so forth. And you don't want to look like, I have great experience looking like a dork. So, you know, a kid like that doesn't know the first day, some kid next to remember it in 3 years from now or something. So I'm really, really pleased to be here. Thank you. It's a distinguished panel, mostly. Joe, you're on.
When you get to be our age, that's a very pertinent question. Where are the restaurants?
Critical, Joe.
Hi.
Pregnant women and adjunct professors.
Well, I spent a lot of years in the Navy as an instructor and professor, and we had the 50-minute thing. You know, every 50 minutes you had to give the students a break, and so you'd refill your coffee cup and whatever follows every 50 minutes. Hi, I'm Joe Khopoli. This is my 5th year starting out. When I was about 48, I did a midlife career change, got an MBA, and I've been teaching college now for almost 27 years, so do the math. Yeah, I've been around a while. To me, you know, when I was in the Navy, we had a one Navy concept. We didn't have reservists, and we didn't have full-time Navy, we had Navy. My way of looking at it here is I'm not an adjunct, I'm an instructor, I'm a professor, I'm a professional educator. That's what I do. There's an adjunct state of mind that's not really productive to you getting the most out of your career. You know, I've been coming to these welcoming, you know, instructional things now as long as I've been here, and they keep saying to me, why are you coming? You've been here 37 years, you should know by now. But I get to meet new people. I get to meet people coming in, and that's exciting to me to be able to meet people from other departments and share ideas and get started that way and in a sense of community with other departments. So that's why I keep coming to these, because I enjoy them and I get a lot out of them. The biggest issues around being an adjunct for me are simply the nuts and bolts of your income and the dependability of your income. We are constantly interviewing for our job here. We don't have a contract tenure. We go from semester to semester. So we have to be better than the average mouse. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We have to be, and that's a good thing. That makes us be the best we can be rather than getting complacent, okay? And that's a good thing. It drives me to try to be better every class in the class before it, because my job depends on it, and I take a lot of pride in what I do in the classroom. I just spent 3 months trying to get unemployment so I'd have some income over the summer. The summer is rough if you're an adjunct, if you don't have some other type of work. You know, I used to teach at 6 or 7 different colleges at the same time and spent all my life looking through the windshield. I don't have to do that anymore, you know, because I work here. But issues like, you know, income during the summer, it's very difficult to get unemployment now if you're an adjunct. They've made it almost impossible. Other than that, though, you know, the job is my ideal job. What can I say?
Yeah, I think this is something you do because you love it and you can't not do it. You know, sure, you could get a 9-to-5 desk job, like, you know, with security or whatever, but the interaction with the students, making a difference, having wonderful colleagues, you really do feel like you're making a difference, and that's, you know, won't feed you, but it's a form of payment that feels good.
I go to graduation because when I see those kids going up, getting their diplomas, especially our department, to me, it's the icing on the cake. You know, here's the product, and off they go with an education to pursue their dreams, and you were part of that.
Joe, can you just expand a little bit more on the unemployment and the summer issue? Were you able to get
Yes.
unemployment?
Oh, yeah, but you have to turn into you have to be a self-educated lawyer to do it. The law is written in such a way that, for example, if you're offered reasonable assurance, you have offers from the school of the same workload that you had the spring semester, then you know you're not eligible. Forget it. If you have less of a workload or there's some uncertainty about your schedule, then you're eligible. So if you have an inconsistent workload, I do 3 and 2, 3 and 2, 3 and 2, and that sort of thing. So the fall I only have 2, so therefore I had to attend a conference call hearing with the state the 1st of August, and the girl from whom HR had absolutely no knowledge of my schedule, of my upcoming course load, of anything. It was embarrassing for him, but I knew the law, and that was it. You know, I had looked up all those statutes and laws and precedents, and there it was. You know, but it was hard. But without it, I was tapping into my retirement for my old age, which is, oh my God, it's here.
My career job, I was a state worker for 44 years looking for jobs for people. And that particular provision of the law for summer employment is written so that no one will ever be able to utilize it.
Well,
so you're talking to a man among men here, if you were able to get
Gregory,
benefits out of that.
there is the Federal Department of Labor memo, which came out in the end of 2016, which clarifies that the adjunct must have reasonable assurance, i.e., a bona fide offer of work in hand, okay, or they're eligible. So there's been, and then the federal law supersedes any state law on that.
Our tax dollar at work, once in a while we get it. Once in a while we get it right.
Yeah, justice is served once in a while,
Good man, Joe.
but you have to be tenacious. You know, all my life I've worked 7 days a week, 12 months a year. I've taught weekends, I've taught nights, I've taught everything, and it was a rough life. It was a long commute every day to Boston from the South Shore, and the quality of life here is 500% better than it was previous to my coming here.
Julie, have you always been an adjunct, or did you have a full-time, regular job?
Oh, that would be sad if I had gone down in stature, wouldn't it? That wouldn't be a very good advertisement. No, I've always been an adjunct.
I've always
yeah.
been an adjunct as well. And when they say things like retirement, that's one thing that frightens me. I mean, I'm in my early 40s, and I don't really have much of anything, and the adjuncting doesn't really provide. I mean, you have a small amount that you put, what is, Karen, do you know?
7.5%.
Yeah, and it's,
pre-tax.
what is it? It's like a OBRA,
It's
right?
Oprah.
It's OBRA.
Yeah, through Great Western.
Right,
out
but
in
I mean,
Colorado.
sometimes you're scratching so little money just to survive.
Well, this is my retirement plan.
Yeah, so I'm
I'll be here until I'm 117.
I'm gonna work till I'm dead, which I don't mind because I love the job.
You know what? Thank God I have this.
Right.
In my in my older years, thank God
Right.
I have it. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But Sandy, you're not racking up Social Security.
No, I have no Social Security, nothing. This
You
is
don't
it.
have any quarters. Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, all I can tell you is that you save,
Yeah.
and don't wait until you're my age to start.
Right, but when I'm a single parent too, so when you're trying, it's like save, but
I
a
know,
lot
but
of the
where?
time
From
there's
where?
nothing. And I mean,
know.
as you guys know, the cost of living and rents and things like this now are so
Yeah.
astronomical.
Well, my wife and I had $500,000, and we were set to retire, and she got disabled, ended up in a nursing home, and by the time she passed away, I was deep in debt and didn't have a house, didn't have anything.
Yeah, it's
So
hard.
thank God I have Salem State. That's all I
Yeah.
can say.
Greg, I was curious what courses you were teaching.
Introductory psych right now. I had to count it up a year ago for, a resume. I hadn't done one, I think. And it struck me this morning driving over that I've worked in 2 centuries now, too, so. Well, looking at that. It's introductory psych now. I've taught 13 different classes, so 3 different colleges over the years.
I've taught 25 different classes at about 8 different colleges.
I haven't caught up with either Joe or I yet, and we're very happy about that.
I
Okay?
was also
To do it.
human resource director at a homeless shelter at one time, believe it or not. Pine Street Inn.
I've worked at the Pine Street
Yeah,
Women's Inn.
we had a big operation there. That was an eye-opener in education, I'll tell you, working with the homeless population.
Yeah, so that's probably another conversation, but
Yes,
I'd
it
love
is.
to
We'll have
get
that
your
someday.
take on that. Yeah. So I've had people with degrees from Middlebury, Suffolk, MIT, in my homeless
Oh, yeah,
classes.
yeah.
So it's not what people think. Very
No.
often it is
No.
illness or disability
No,
or
getting
sudden
way off the track, but
unemployment that puts
the
people there.
stereotypical person is
Debbie's
not
like,
what
rein it
puts
in,
there.
rein it in.
Talking about something else. Judith, you have another question?
It's all intro psych. Excuse me. Shawshene Regional Voc
Oh, in Billerica?
in the 70s, yeah. I was a student teacher there, and then I was a permanent sub for a year.
Wow.
Teaching academics in a Voc school.
We can just redirect a little bit. So if I can ask you each to just sort of speak to, maybe what's the one thing that you wish somebody had told you when you first started teaching as an adjunct here?
So I'll jump in because I've been sitting here quietly listening to everybody else. And that is, again, related to the pay, that this is a carousel that is very difficult to get off once you're on it. It's very difficult, right, Karen? 37 years later, right? And so, the problem is, as Joe says, you get to the summer and you don't actually have a job and you don't actually have pay. But when you try to file for unemployment, but they've got you scheduled for classes in September. So what you're supposed to live on from the end of May until the beginning of September, and they do a very special nifty neato thing with adjuncts, they don't pay you for a month. So we're really talking about living on fumes
For about 4 months, yeah.
for about 4 months.
And eating into my savings, which hurt.
Right.
We do the credit card shuffle.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So, if I could file for unemployment and get it, I would then look for a full-time job. But as it is, I just have to keep scrambling and piecing together things. So I'm so busy working to make ends meet. And also ageism comes in too. I
Yeah.
don't feel old.
Well-
I feel like I can run circles around most 28-year-olds I know, both in terms of intellect and energy. But that said, it exists. Ageism is just as big a thing as racism.
I'd be more than
And
happy to, if
sexism.
anybody wants some help on that matter for the next summer or whatever. Forget about the Christmas vacation, that's not gonna work at all.
Oh,
but-
I haven't had a vacation in over 10
Yeah,
years.
no, I'm saying, as far as benefits over the Christmas break, forget it. But for next year, I can get you set up so that you can be successful with it.
Okay.
Again, it depends on the situation.
Well, I hope I'm not still in this situation
Yeah.
next year, but because I really am at the point where I need to short circuit it. And so, as Sandi said, it's the most wonderful job in the world. I
It's
mean,
stressful.
I just taught summer session 1, and one of the comments that the student put on her portfolio at the end of that 6-week intensive class, 5-week intensive class, whatever it is, was this has been the most emotionally and academically challenging class I have ever taken. And this was a senior. So, the most emotionally and academic class that I have ever taken. Thank you. And this particular student wrote something that was the healthcare writing class, and she is an EMT. And she wrote an essay about the burnout that sets in when you're dealing with some pretty horrific situations day after day after
Right.
day that is going to be published.
Oh, wow,
When
that's great.
somebody's carrying a dead baby down the stairwell and it doesn't faze you. then you know you've passed some kind of mark. She wrote about that beautifully. One of the other things I do here at Salem State is that I was invited to be part of a learning community for vets only. And so each fall I teach a Foundations of Writing class to veterans that most of them have been on active duty. This past fall I had a student write about sitting watch in the artillery room, guarding the artillery, and picking up a gun and shooting himself. And so when you're able to give people like this that have been carrying around stuff, and I'm not even in psychology, right? So what the heck am I doing, right? But, license to have a voice, which is really all that writing is, right? Is tell your story,
Yeah.
tell other people's stories. It's just storytelling, all writing. Whether you're writing a lab report, it's a storytelling episode of what's going on underneath the microscope, right? If you're writing a grant, looking for money, if your thing is business, it's just telling the story of why this is a good thing to put your money in towards. So it's all just telling stories. And so when you get people actually tapping into that thing that we all so desperately need to do, it is the most wonderful job in the world. And I have students like you that, 4 years later, 3 years later, depending on when they've had me, will come back to me, will pop up out of the woodwork and say, until I met you, I didn't think I could write. Enabling people to find that in themselves is magical.
The one piece of advice I would give you, find out about your students as much as you can. Each one of them has a story. A lot of them have a very difficult road to hoe. The things that are keeping them from succeeding in the classroom sometimes are really overwhelming. They don't have the same abilities. You have a class of 28, but you've got several different subgroups within the class of different levels of ability, preparation, and you need to really be open to where they're coming from and that the fact that you're a resource to them, you're there for them, you're there to support them, encourage them, mentor them, and they need to know that right up front.
Jumping off of what Joe just said, I think my first semester teaching, I would have wanted to know more about the services that Student Affairs offers, especially for students who are experiencing personal difficulties. And if there's one name you need to know there, it's Christine Sullivan. If you ever have a student who's having any kind of personal difficulty, addiction, abuse, whatever, students who need support,
Poverty. Just plain
poverty.
Poverty,
I
abject poverty.
I call or email Christine, say I have a student who's
Yes.
a situation. I've often gone with the student, walk them to Student Affairs because sometimes the students become so overwhelmed, they need, and that's not our job, right? That's the Student Affairs office job. Our job is to identify and
Right.
connect them with the services that they need. And knowing that information of how to help students would have really been important to me my first semester. So again, that's Chris Sullivan in the Student Affairs office.
And, your job just doesn't end at the end of the period as far as your students. You have to look at the whole student, not just in the classroom. Because sometimes they have deep depression. Mm-hmm. They can't come to class because they can't get off the couch to come in. I've had students tell me that. They curled up on a ball on the couch for 2 weeks and they couldn't come to class. Students who don't have the money for the books or the software or anything like that. And there's a lot of that.
I've noticed a big jump in mental health issues in the past 9 years, like a sharp jump.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
going to be something that you probably will be dealing with at some point.
And I think it's important, too, to, you said, you start each class with, how are you, right?
Yeah, that's nice icebreaker. You're human.
Right.
You're not an authority figure or the sage on the stage. You're another human being who's here to help you learn.
Right. And so what I do, and I make it a point to make sure that they need to do this too, is that I have all of their names, even if I'm teaching 6 different classes between here and UMass,
Yeah.
which is madness, actually. But even if I'm doing that, I make sure that I have all of their names memorized by the second class.
Oh, I have a good one to add to that, something that early adjuncts might not know. When you find the class roster, you can look at their photographs.
Yes.
and then-
Yes.
So you can kind of pre-learn
Once I
their
started
name.
doing that,
I print
all of
them
a
out.
sudden Now I
Yeah.
Yeah.
can say
Yeah.
their names.
Yeah.
I print out their photograph and I put it
Yeah.
in a binder so I can look and I can
Yeah.
connect the name with the face, the name with the face.
And it's totally changed the
Yeah.
whole.
Oh,
Well, and
yeah.
I also expect them to know each other's names.
Yes.
That is a quiz. It's a graded quiz. They have to know one thing about
Each
everybody else in the room. We do a first day thing where we share, I ask them about 10, 12 different questions, and then they get to choose 3 answers that they'd like to share with the class. And people have to take notes, oh, Julie loves to skateboard or something, right? So they have to be able to say each other's names and give one sort of tidbit about each other. So that is necessary, especially in the classes that I teach, because it does end up, we start with personal narratives because that's the easiest thing for us all to write about is ourselves, right? And then it goes into more heavily academic writing. But so there's a trust thing there. They have to have trust with one another. And I never force or expect them to share these personal narratives with each other. That would be, just inappropriate. But very often they want to. The first day essay question that I give, because I have to sort of take tally of where everybody's writing skills are and make sure they're in the right class, is talk to me about your middle school experience. I have 4 kids, and what I always told them when they sort of embarked on the middle school journey was that there's always something sticking out when you get to middle school. It's your nose or your zits or your attitude or your boobs or your feet or something is sticking out that you wish wasn't sticking out. And so I say, tell me what was sticking out with you. And I've had people say, oh, aren't they embarrassed? No. They write reams, like the class couldn't be long enough. And they write it, most of these students are 17, 18 years old, right? And they write it with the wisdom of the ages. Oh, back when I was 14, you'll never believe it, but this was the case. And they're sitting there and you think, yeah, I would kind of, like, nothing's changed. We won't say it, but it's like still all there, And, but they begin by revealing themselves on the very first day.
Yeah. And however you can foster community and engagement in that classroom is going to benefit your students because they're going to be excited to come to your class. I do a lot of peer support in my class. I usually break students into groups that they're in all semester. The more excited they are, the more they feel like they belong, the more successful they're going to be in your course.
Not being afraid to answer a question. You have to understand that nonverbal language is very important. Gestures, eyes, your posture, everything. You don't want to communicate if a student answered a question wrong, like, right? You have to be careful of that because, again, they'll pick up on that.
Yeah.
Warmth, friendliness, openness. That we want you to get involved. Don't be afraid to answer a question because we were all there to learn. None of us is got perfect knowledge. Any of us. We're all here to learn together. So don't be afraid to participate.
Don't be afraid to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Geez, let me think about that.
Or
Okay.
admit you're wrong. Yeah, don't be afraid. I always tell my students, if you catch me making a mistake, call me on it because I'm
Yeah, oh,
human
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm not the know-it-all authority.
No. Make me work for my money. Make me work for my money. Do not test me. Ask me questions I can't answer. So I have to learn something.
And I think you will find every semester you will learn just as much from each and every class as they learn from you.
Yes. Yeah. You're constantly learning.
Yeah.
Commencement means what?
If we do it right.
Yeah.
If we're lucky,
do it right,
yeah.
right. Commencement means the beginning of learning, not the end of learning.
Last July, and this is testament to the community here at Salem State, I had started tripping in the halls 2 springs ago. And I would laugh and talk about how clumsy I was getting in my old age, and then I would make jokes about being should have been a stunt woman because I haven't broken anything yet. I just do these things and end up sitting on the floor laughing. And my partner says, this really is not funny. You're laughing and everybody else is going, So went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with a tumor inside of my spinal cord. Inside of my spinal cord, not on my spine, inside of my spinal cord, which 0.01% of the population gets, mostly children. So, I was way out of the ballpark, but anyway. And so I had to climb up on the operating table and submit to a spinal cord injury, and spent a lot of weeks last summer in Spalding learning to walk again. And so I'm all of a sudden in this whole new space of being physically disabled. And it has occurred to me, sometimes when I'm walking down the sidewalk in a crowded street, because of there being 3 ways to sort of attain balance in the world, when the landscape begins to shift like that with moving people, I lose my balance easily now. And so if you ever, when you're coming down the street and there's somebody walking towards you, you sort of have this unspoken contract about you're going this way and I'm going this way, right? And I'm like this, and I can see their faces slowly turn to what the heck, lady? Which way are you going? Or are you really trying to take me out? And then they start whoa, what is she on? Is this an early morning cocktail situation or what? And so I'm terribly ashamed in that situation because I'm not a drinker. I don't have any sorts of issues like that. And so to see all of this, myriad of emotions passing over the face of these people that are coming towards me. And so I am impaired. I'm physically impaired. And there is a point to all of this. And so sometimes when since having all of this happen, it occurs to me that our students at a state school are also impaired in many different ways. Maybe they're curled up in the closet in a ball from depression. Maybe they're working a 40-hour
40.
yeah,
Sometimes
or
more than
more,
that.
sometimes more, and taking care of a mother who's
Yes,
suffering from
yes.
cancer. I mean, these are extraordinary human beings, but don't ever take them at face value. I'm not drunk, and they're not stupid.
Right.
So you really do have to look deeper, and not to sort of go past professional boundaries, but you have to know their stories in order to teach them well.
And what is it that we're preparing them for here, but the outside world? And so there's 2 sets of skills they have to come out with, the soft skills, people skills, and some sort of hard marketable skill. But, my classes, I emphasize, writing, communicating with people, thinking on your feet, those sorts of things that are invaluable. Long after they've forgotten what the law of supply and demand is, they're going to remember that, the outside world is something that they have to interact with no matter what career they have, and being able to think and being able to think for yourself and think, analytically and communicate those are the skills that they have to carry with them to kind of help them in the career.
At North Shore and here, I call students kids. It drives administrators crazy, I know, when I do that. But a large number of our kids at North Shore and an increasing number of our kids here may be the only member of their family in 3 generations that has their shit together.
Yep.
So when their crummy godson, 15-year-old, who can't read but who can intercept the letters from the juvenile court, rip them up so that he doesn't appear when he's supposed to go in, so that when they catch up with him, they take him out in handcuffs. Our kids are the kids that have to go to the court and find out what to go and where to go to and how to get a lawyer and how to do everything else. Okay? They may have to interpret in another language, okay? But they may be getting a government letter, which we specialize in government and writing letters that no one can read, as you've well known. That
And
was
lots of them.
large part of my career for years, and so forth, okay? They have tremendous sacks of rocks, I guess, that they come into us with, you know? And you see that, sometimes you can be aware of it, and sometimes, not aware of it. But as much encouragement, again, as much as we can be enthused about what we do, so they know they have that battery charge, okay, to go to. And I think not be embarrassed about it, okay, particularly.
To be fair, too, I've seen the community of students here change over the last 7 years, and certainly people who have been here longer would have more to say about this than me. But, as the economy has, since 2008 really gotten itself into a state, we have more middle-class students who maybe, were accepted to private institutions that they've chosen not to take on the debt from. Right, and so maybe they don't have as troubled circumstances going on at home, and so you have that kind of student in the same class with somebody who is first generation college student, taking care of their mother, blah 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 blah, and you have to be careful not to teach to the lowest common denominator or the highest, but to somehow hold all of the strings and make it a productive experience for everybody. So I think that, I don't know if everybody would agree, but I think the population has significantly changed in the last 7 years. Would you say? Yes or no?
It's hard to say, yeah. Sometimes, I can't really tell just because of the types of classes I teach, but I would say overall as a trend, I would agree with that.
That might be it too, is that my teaching load has shifted from just a first-year writing class to advanced writing, creative writing, upper-level courses. So maybe that's why I'm feeling this as well.
That might be, Julie, because they kind of get sifted, you know what I mean? So I think for first year, and particularly because I taught everything from like adults reading on a 4th grade level in very basic community college classes all the way through English major, honor students. I totally lost my train of thought. I hate it when that happens. My 105s, my developmental courses are still very much that at-risk population. And then once they get to me for like the lit classes, I do see more middle class. And I don't know if that's like a factor for success. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's something that we need to be spending more time with these at-risk students at the lower level so that they can join, more of them can join and be successful, those middle class students in higher level courses. But definitely prepare yourself for differentiated instruction. You're not going to be able to succeed as a teacher without it.
Nope.
One of the ways that I deal with this, especially in a writing class, is I will sort of give introductory activities to see who has what skills, and then I will create groups or pairs with one student being stronger than the other to sort of serve as a mini tutor,
mentor
if
each
you
other in a
say,
way, yeah.
because I'm only one person.
Right.
The other thing I will say is absolutely use the support services on campus. Becky Martini, Dr. Martini runs our writing center.
She's fantastic.
They are phenomenal there. Talk to her, bring your writing class, any class you can bring over there. They have tutors who are trained. They take a semester-long course. I'm an alum of that program. I worked in the writing center. I was a grad assistant for the writing center, not under Becky, but under Jan Lindholm. And your students' writing will just rock it with the help of tutoring. So I would just highly advise, know how to connect your students with the supports they need. Look at the gems in your classroom to kind of help you and provide you with that additional support in the community. Because I kind of look at it as we're all in this class together. Our goal is for everyone to learn, so we help each other. And the friendships between the students really blossom when you take this kind of technique. And it just puts my mind at ease because, like I said, I'm only one person, so it really does help.
I will say that I've done that, but I've done that with 3 students, so that then you don't have a student who is really strong not getting anything out of the discussion. If you have 3 of different varying levels of aptitude in the same group, then everybody's getting something. out of it, and so it's not quite so weighted.
See, no, I've had a
just
different
one-on-one.
experience because my stronger students tell me that through the teaching or through the helping,
It's made them
it's
think.
made them think about the material in a different way, and they actually learned more. So I think it just depends, maybe on the
yeah.
instructor, the student, whatever.
Yeah, and on the
Yeah.
on the
On the
assignment.
material too,
right,
yeah, definitely some assignments that wouldn't work for.
I will say, since I first began teaching here, I have learned how important syllabi are. They are. I mean, I hate. We're talking, very empathetically about our students' stories and all of that, but you also have to protect your own
Well, it's a contract
behind.
between you
It
and the
is
student.
a
It's a
contract, and it is a business
on both
contract.
sides. Yep.
And if you leave anything out, they will
will
find
find
the hole and come at you. The other thing is that more and more and more you have to.
Can you give some examples of stuff that would be left out by the state?
Okay, so as an assignment is due and somebody doesn't turn it in and they say, well, you never said that. Well, maybe they were absent on the day that I reminded them, but it's been in the syllabus since day one. Or how to present their work, right? 12-point font, New York Times, New Roman, whatever it is,
Yeah.
all of that, and they give you something that's like,
25
football
font.
fields apart, and it's like,
Well,
how do you
yeah.
think I'm not going to notice
I've
this
seen
when
s-
I've just read 25 papers in the
Yeah.
right font, and then yours comes on the screen and
I've
blows
seen,
me out of the water?
I've seen students fill a page with 3 sentences.
Right.
Just to cover the requirement by the letter of the law.
Right, and so you have to. I think it's a good idea to have a rubric, at least
Yes.
in terms of writing a general rubric in terms of
Yeah,
what
APA or
constitutes
something.
what, right?
Yeah.
But that is something that has actually saddened me because I view the whole teaching experience as a discussion, as a real exchange of ideas, and so when I have to start covering my behind, and it gets into this very sort of legalistic kind of exchange, I think that's unfortunate. I think the student is missing the point. I will say also that I felt a lot of pressure here at Salem State to give nothing but A's and B's.
Really?
That's
I've
not
never
unusual.
experienced that.
Yep.
Grade
when-
inflation is a big,
Grade
big
inflation is a
problem.
terror. Honestly, when I
Yep.
first get them, yeah, do you see?
Students all.
Absolutely. I'm surprised that you
bad.
guys
Just
don't see
laugh.
that.
I should
Too
get
bad.
an A. Yeah.
I am an A student. Ask anybody.
I just had a student.
Deserve to get an A.
I just had a student who came into my summer session 1 class, the healthcare writing class, and I gave him a C.
Oh, God
Might have
forbid.
might have even been a C plus on his first paper. And the next class he came into me, he had just transferred in here from Bunker Hill, and he gave me a face full of, I got A's in Foundations of Writing. I only get A's.
Then earn
and,
one.
And really
earn
what
one.
he was saying is, I have to get A's. I'm a scholarship student. I have to get A's.
Then earn them.
But the point is that, it's like my kids when they would come home and say, everybody's wearing belly shirts. That's really great for everybody, but then there's you.
But you're not everybody.
And I'm your mother. Lucky you, and there will be no belly shirts in 3rd grade, So I don't really care what the rest of the world is giving you. This is like right
Oh.
now in this moment, and this is and honestly, when I set the benchmark high, they meet it. And that's why I get comments
Oh.
like, this has been the most emotionally, academically challenging. Thank you. I'm a different person.
Listen-
One thing, one bugaboo you're gonna have to be up against is that little black thing about that long, about that wide, right? And you're gonna see them,
I'm taking notes, I'm
and you've
researching.
got to come up with some kind of policy about cell phones and enforce it.
Deb makes them put it in a basket.
What do you use
They
for
come with a
policy?
At the beginning of class, I give them an announcement that is sort of similar to what you get in the airplane. Please stow all electronic devices and for the duration of the flight. Thank you very much, and mean it.
And then they get very stealth
And what do you
about what
do-
that means to stow it.
So what do you do if you have those?
I will ask them politely, put it away right now, please, or I'll take it away from you.
I also have something in my syllabus that says that to be marked present in a class, you have to be, that means off the phone, like,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
here.
far
100%.
away from your phone, you know,
Yep.
you're here 100%. So if it becomes really a problem, and I think Deb's idea is the best, put it in a basket, and they'll say, oh, but my grandmother is ailing, and I might get that
Well-
all-important once-in-a-lifetime phone call. It's like,
Oh.
it's okay, I got it, I'm keeping my eyes on it.
The other thing I tell them is, there's one exception to getting a phone call in class, only one. If it's from the Almighty, it's okay, you can take it. If you can prove that it's from Almighty God, I'll allow you to take the phone call.
If it ain't the Lord calling, turn it off.
Now, see,
Yeah, right.
I take the opposite tack. I fully integrate cell phones into my course. Yep, that's them, that's their thing, right? So I utilize whatever technologies and uses to use the phone and make sure that it's used appropriately. Now, granted, you have to have a proper layout so you can watch what everybody's doing, but I think it's hard. I'm a tech nerd, super tech nerd. Okay, so I integrate whatever technology I can as much as I can, and I find that they respond really positively to it, and they respect me for it, and so they do use their phones properly. We do everything from online dictionary. Now, I teach popular music in my Foundations of Writing class to get the students super engaged. So they're using music platforms. They have their online dictionaries on there. There's all sorts of different types of technology. And if you guys talk to instructional design, you can have Canvas on the phone too. There are all different ways you can incorporate the phone into your class so that students are comfortable and that they are using what they are used to using. I've never had major problems. It won't work for everybody. It has to depend on your comfort level and what you expect. I teach in a room that's a U shape, so I see everybody's laptops at all times. I see everybody's phones. I'm up, I'm walking around. They are so engaged and interested in what they are doing that they have no interest in being on their phones. I do have a texting and call policy that if you get caught texting or phone, then you're in trouble. But I just feel like sometimes we get this knee-jerk reaction to the phones because, let's face it, none of us had that when we were, in school. It wasn't really used, and every instructor should make their own decisions. But it can be done to the point where it's enjoyable and engaging for the
Yes.
student.
I will ask
Yeah.
them on occasion to research something for me in class with the phone, but that is the only exception to that thing.
Right, but
I
there.
invite them to use it. When we're going to be needing to use it, I will say, okay, you're invited to take your cell phones out.
Right.
But a good syllabus cannot be overemphasized. It's your raincoat, it's your bulletproof vest. And when you get called on the carpet, as you will, as certainly
yeah.
I have been, you go back to the syllabus. What does the syllabus say?
Right.
What does the contract say? It frames your discussion with the student so that each of you are not beating your gums and talking about something that doesn't matter. You want to get down to, the reason that we hate lawyers is why a good syllabus is important, because you want to have a common agreement on what the issue is. And when you have an 18 or a 19-year-old coming in, arguing about a grade and so forth, it is a million times more important, to have that, because then you've established what the issue is, and you fall back on that with the department chair or a review board or anything that comes up.
I had a situation happen with a student who she was from China and she was ESL, and very good student. It was a contemporary literature class, and I would say that she was hovering around a B+ for most of the semester. And then she took her final exam. It was 40 questions, and she only got halfway through. And I was really distraught by this because I knew that she knew the rest of the answers. I knew that she did. And so I went to Teresa and I said, the chair of the department, and I said, can I let her come back in and finish it? What can I do? And she said, no, ESL does not constitute a learning accommodation of any sort. She has to be able to finish it on time. And so she failed her final exam. And that brought her B+ down to somewhat generously on my part, because it really should have been like a C-. I gave her a C+. And she brought it up with the chair of the department. I had to go in and talk more about the situation. Here are her grades for the semester, but here's her final exam. What should I do? I was taken all the way to the dean. I had to come into the university on days that I wasn't even teaching and tell my side of the story. And it wasn't punitive. It was just, what's protocol here? What should I do? she failed her final exam. What can I do? What can I do to help her? What can I do to stay within the boundaries of my professional responsibilities?
So did it stay?
She was given the option to, I think, I can't remember now exactly, this was a few years back, but do additional work. But at the most, her grade would have been brought up to a B-, and she said, forget it. So, but it did stay.
Do you folks use Canvas for grades for students to?
I do.
I
see
do.
what their grades are?
I love Canvas.
I do too.
Back up. No. I don't. I love using Canvas, not having to toter, especially with my wobbly, situation here. I love not having to tote around all those papers. But I tell them in the syllabus that your grade on Canvas during the course of the year does not reflect your real grade.
Right.
Because there's too many things that don't get measured by Canvas that go into your...
And Canvas does an average and throws things into buckets that don't have grades yet.
Absolutely. So they either come to me, I'm failing the class, how could I be failing the class? It's like, you're not failing the class. Or they start, cruising because they think they're getting an A.
Yeah, that's
So
the-
I put that in bold letters. Your grade on Canvas does not reflect. I mean, you can also disable grading completely, but then they're all coming to you saying, well, they're very grade centric.
Yeah,
Well, how am I doing? What's my grade? How am I supposed to know? She's a terrible teacher. She doesn't let me know how I'm doing until the very last day. So it goes both ways. So you just have to make it clear.
Any
I
student-
grade you. Canvas does not.
Any student that asks you that, say, email me. Never open your roll book, never open your Canvas, in my experience. Okay, Professor Levis, how am I doing? I don't know. How you doing? You doing good? Anything to do with a grade, email me.
So last
To give, it's self-obvious, I think. You give yourself time then, okay, and you don't say something that a student swears to God that you said, okay, afterwards, because it becomes adversarial, potentially, when a student says, and running out the door says, how am I doing? On it.
Yeah, I had students argue with me because they wanted to discuss a grade they'd got during class, and I kept saying, see me after class, see me after class, and they
Absolutely.
were just harping on me, and I had to be like, see me after class, I'm
Yep.
not talking about this anymore.
Yep.
And they were really persistent. But I had a couple of students last semester, one that had severe migraines that affected her coming to class. I made an attendance policy last semester. I teach math, and I made an attendance policy that if they, after 2 classes, it starts to affect their final grade. And she had missed so many classes that she was gonna fail. And I tried to work something out with her at the end, and ultimately she couldn't come through. And I think she's taken my class again this semester. And I also had another student that was having difficulty but could not come to any of my office hours, and I'm usually here Tuesday, Thursday. And then I tried to do the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I said, well, I'll come in, but then I worked full-time. And during Tuesday, Thursday, their class, that's when they took all their classes. There was no time on Tuesday, Thursday, and then they worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I felt really frustrated. I didn't feel like there's anything I could do to help that person. I think this semester, if that is the same student that I'm gonna have with the migraines, I think I'm gonna really try to work something out with her to just to come see me when she misses classes, to really, try to get her to show up and see me, even if it's not in my office hours. But I was very frustrated with students that they couldn't see me Tuesday, Thursday, but then I couldn't come in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because their background was such that they were working full-time, and they were taking a full-time schedule on Tuesday, Thursday.
I've encountered that in the past, but the way I resolve that is I either use, so I don't know if you've taken the advanced Canvas workshop, but you can do collaboration where you can have a live video chat. So you could just schedule it at home, the student could schedule it when it's available, and then you could do that, or you could use Skype or something like that. So you meet with them online, and then basically you can accommodate anyone's schedule.
We had the name mentioned before, Christine, I think, from the person that, if we have any
Oh,
question.
Chris Sullivan.
Chris Sullivan.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a Nobel Prize example of a student that you should get in touch with Chris.
Chris Sullivan.
Sullivan.
Chris
Yep,
Sullivan,
in
no.
Student Affairs.
I'm sorry, what?
I would do that right away.
That we would use
I've done
networks
that,
for, like with the migraines.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Networks to help.
And to let them know?
Yeah,
She
definitely.
had accommodations.
Oh,
but,
okay. All right, yeah.
It didn't matter, unfortunately.
Good try, though. You did everything you
Yeah.
could, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and she knew it, you know, so, but she, I mean, what I ended up, in the end, I said, if you can get an 80 on the final exam, I knew she wasn't gonna do it, because she missed too many classes. But I felt like I had to offer her something, you know, and she wasn't even close, so.
I think when that happens, when, you know, we've got the Titanic and there's only
Yeah.
one direction, right?
Yeah, sometimes you
I-
can't save everybody you want to,
No,
but.
and I think just reaching out to the student and say, hey, you know, this doesn't feel good on my end, it doesn't feel good on your end, but sometimes the timing is off, you know, so that they don't take it as a sort of a personal
think,
judgment,
things
but
were-
just, this
yeah.
isn't the right time for you to be taking this class.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens, life happens, right? It's not who you are, it's just what has happened here. I would say the other thing that I've learned without a doubt in the last 7 years is that each class comes with its own personality.
Yes.
And so you can be your very best self, and it's going to be received differently each time, depending on the mix of who you've got in the class. And there can be just one or two sort of combative students in the group that cast the whole tone for the
One
entire
kid could suck the
semester.
oxygen out of Fenway Park.
It's true, it's true. My last semester, last spring, in my Foundations of Writing class, I had a boy that would come, a young man that would come in, and he'd start every class like this. And when I'd, you know, try to engage him, why are you always picking on me? Why are you always picking on me? And so that was it was a tough semester. I mean, we ended it well, we landed the plane, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, it was, you know, it was hard to rein him in and to actually, to keep him engaged and to keep him from souring the whole experience for everybody. So cut yourself a break, right? If you have a class like that that feels, you know, you're just sharpening your skills, I guess is what you can say.
And I find too that when you're having trouble like that, sometimes it helps to just like grab a colleague and be like, hey, I'm having this problem. I keep trying to solve it. It's not working. Because sometimes you just need some feedback or a fresh idea to maybe help you.
I think it always helps to get students up physically and moving around the classroom, because it's really hard to do this when you have to be, you know, walking to the board and doing something. Right?
Send an email out to the other people in the department if you haven't met them. You could do that with email, can't you?
Yeah,
I enjoy talking about phones because my phone is home with a wire that goes to the wall. Where that wire goes, it could go up the chimney, it could go out the wastewater. I don't know where it goes from there. And I have a phone in my car that I call AAA with exclusively, and that's about it. Okay, with technology. But you need not worry that you do not know all your faculty members in your department. But that's the first place I'd go to. I'd send a balloon up on that, and then you'll get replies, you'll get responses, because I've done it. I know you'll get replies and responses back.
Or email to
Well,
the,
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
so one of the things, one of the services that I can offer you in the CTI, if you have a class that is it is just not going, and you can't figure out why, I will come and sit down in the back of your class and sort of watch, and, you know, we meet afterwards and talk about what I saw from my perspective. I am trained in supervision and evaluation, so.
So, yes.
I'm happy to come in and just, like, talk to you in advance, get some idea of what you think is the issue and what you see from your perspective, and then sit in the back and see what I see and talk about, you know, what's really going on. Because sometimes our view of what's going on is really different. than what's
Right.
actually going on.
So that is one thing that perplexes me a little bit. I've taught here for 7 years, and I've never had anyone come and watch me teach.
Really?
We could be playing poker, all day long and making a deal. I'll give you an A if you don't talk about what we're doing here. Like, I'm obviously kidding, but the fact is that I've never had anybody come and observe me teach until I was just nominated for this past couple of years for the most distinguished teaching award, and then we get the whole, battalion, Mark Ebenfield and, Dr. Martini from the Writing Center and all of that, and they happen to come to the class where I've got Mr. So if only he knew. I wanted to, if I had been his mother, there would be no holds barred, but of course I'm not. So I was very tempered in my response, but.
He'd have been the better man for it.
Well,
Good
no,
experience.
we definitely came to an understanding. On both sides, like I said, it was definitely a conversation, a respectable conversation, but, and respectful conversation. But anyway, so I'm curious about that, Deborah, why there isn't something more routine about, not to put everybody in a bad spot here, but surveillance of adjuncts. How the heck does anybody know what's going on?
That's weird though, because like I've been here not.
Depends on the department.
Right, like
Yeah.
but we're in the same department, and I've been teaching there for 9 years, and I've had people come and evaluate, and
Who?
Nancy came at least twice.
Nancy hasn't been to department chair in how long?
I don't know. I've lost track of
I
time.
mean, Nancy was here when I first came too. And nobody ever has ever come to my classroom. Never.
Greg, do you get, I'm curious if Joe and Greg Gregory are routinely observed? Like,
Oh, yeah.
teachers?
I'm observed in the classroom at least once a year. And I always prepare my students, so they know in advance that they're going to participate. They're going to that you are going to be engaged, and so it usually works out pretty well.
Is there,
You're supposed to be.
is there
you are
something in the
supposed to be observed
contract
once a
like
year.
that? Yeah, okay, yeah.
And that's what the contract says.
Yeah.
but discussion.
I can't emphasize enough, to make yourself more valuable. Go to workshops, trainings, go to convocations, go to things, meet people, look for opportunities to get involved in fire or get involved in this or that. Be part of the life of the college and try to make yourself more valuable. I'm teaching classes that are challenging to me because I've never taught them before, but because my department has faith that I'm going to learn how to do it, and I'm going to figure out how to make it work. So but you can't make yourself more valuable any way you can.
And there is a bill, just of these last few weeks, that the Massachusetts Teachers Association is putting before the legislature to get, pay parity and, what adjuncts deserve, to actually bring that up to speed. So there is more hope for anybody who's just starting out in this realm than there has been up to this point. The problem is that to get adjuncts to really unite and make a difference with the pay and the vacation and the job security and all of that, we have to take away time to do that from the 6 different classes that we're teaching and writing for whatever number of magazines and all of that. And so it's that's why women are in the position that they're in, because very often women are wearing so many different to get equal pay for women and all of that would take a concerted effort, and it's very difficult to mobilize people. It was I can't remember your name way back. Can you remind me? We were just yes you. Maria. Maria and I were just in a faculty development workshop together, and Maria used to teach at Barnard College, where she said that the adjuncts did organize and get some kind of, they unionized. And things are much better for adjuncts at Barnard College now, except that the adjunct that organized that was the prime mover and shaker behind that is no longer there. So that's the other thing, is if you really become the squeaky wheel, your days are probably numbered, right? However, Massachusetts Teachers Association is putting this legislation, they're looking for stories, adjunct stories of, why it's not working out. And so maybe there's some hope.
The hardest part of this, I think, is that, so I am an employee of the state. I require a master's degree to do what I do. I am a professional. I teach here. I teach at North Shore. My checks are signed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I easily work over 40 hours a week. Easily, right? But sorry, no health insurance for you, right? Like, that's the hardest part, because paying out of pocket for health insurance is really difficult. You know, the high, deductibles, all this other stuff. And I try to think to myself, what other employee of the state who works full-time or more doesn't have health insurance?
But they say you only work 22 hours.
Well, that's not true.
Well,
Look at my paycheck. It's all on the same check. It's all on the same check.
22 hours.
No, because when I get paid, they combine do they do with yours? When I get paid, it combines my work at North Shore with my work at Salem State. It's all in one thing.
But
One well, one bucket.
Right.
I get paid separately from UMass Boston.
That's a different,
Oh, okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but mine is all on the same. Mine is
Yeah,
all,
That's a grant source or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
different
mine is
bucket-
all
different-
on the
different
same
buckets
check.
somewhere.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
I'm
I teach
teaching
at the
5
honors college at
classes.
UMass Boston. It's regular.
Yeah, so mine,
adjunct.
so I don't know, that's hard. It's like I'm a professional, I work really hard, I'm a single mom, I want to be able to take care of my family, and I don't have any health insurance. That's the biggest issue to me. Like, I would rather the pay parity, whatever, I think it would, for me, shake out if I could just get health insurance. So that's one thing that you have to really think about, because to get a good plan, that's a significant chunk of your paycheck.
Yes.
And, a lot of us also freelance, because we kind of fit in the writing or whatever, there's no benefits. So
I am
that's the
observed
one
in
thing.
psych, by the way. I'm doing the math in my head in the murky depths of memory here, but it's every no less than every 3 years. And it's our department chair normally that comes around.
you know, what
do
we
that.
do at the time in the classroom is the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh, you're only here 6 hours a week, what do you mean?
No.
Yeah, right. But it's an open-ended type of thing. I don't go home like a 9-to-5 job and leave it behind at the threshold. It goes home with me. And, if you want to be at the top of your game, if you want to really serve your students, you put a lot of time that nobody ever knows about.
All teachers are hogs wallowing at the public trough. You know that. You get 5 months a year off, and you get a fat retirement when you're 42,
And
you don't do anything, and the kids have their laptops open, and they don't have to worry about anything, and, and we know all about that.
The other thing is that you can never really get off of this treadmill if you're not doing scholarly work. Well, when you're teaching six different
classes, when are you
courses
gonna
in
do
3
that?
different
Time for scholarly
places,
work.
where do you manage to do your scholarly work? When do you do it? Yeah. When do you do your laundry? I know.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. You think, oh, I'm going to adjunct here for a few years, and then I'm going to apply, and I'm going to get a full-time job. And there's like literally 600 applications for every one academic job. And I've been through that rigmarole for years. I've given up. I've like, all right, the full-time thing is not going to happen. I am a freelance agent on my own who teaches courses. And
Right.
you have to be responsible for you. So if you know you're going to have that pay gap in the summer, you'd best be looking months in advance and putting small bits of your paycheck from fall and spring away so that
Yes.
you are prepared for that gap.
You can
And
live
then
the
you
summer,
you either look for additional summer courses, you look for writing gigs, you look for temporary jobs, you tutor, you do whatever you can, because that's just the nature of the work.
Does anybody have any questions? I do have a couple of other things to ask, but I'm gonna-
I'd like to quickly go back to this gentleman, if I could here. Is this your first class, sir?
Yes,
God bless you. What department are you in?
upstairs.
Your kids are lucky. Okay. I just noticed the other day, they gave us a listing of what we should put on the syllabus. And it is really good, because that's changed regularly based on some lawsuit from Wisconsin
Right.
or Puerto Rico or the Commonwealth of someplace else on it. It's brought right up to date and so forth. But I will recommend to you, when you submit that, ask your department chair to sit down and go over your syllabus with you, because he or she will say, well, okay, we want you to add this, we want you to do that. We're giving you a good template with that, believe me. But find out, and it's a good way to introduce yourself to your chair
Well,
also.
I took her syllabus and basically made it mine.
Yes,
Good. Why
Learn the
reinvent the
ropes.
wheel?
Yeah.
Are you working for Amy Everett?
Yes.
Are
Sorry?
you teaching healthcare writing?
not the writing class. She asked me if I could teach that, but I did
Okay.
not. I'm teaching the Introduction to Health Services.
Oh, okay, okay.
The other thing, faculty don't think of this, but faculty are welcome at the Writing Center. You can meet with Bill Coyle or Dr. Martini, and faculty go there to work on assignments and stuff too. So if you're looking for feedback or help, they will do it.
I will say, with regard to the Writing Center, that when you I make it mandatory that my students go there
do
at
too.
least twice in the semester. And so that's a requirement that a lot of them blow because they think they can, do it at the end of the semester. Well, they're all booked at the end of the semester. And even though I tell them that, that sometimes goes in one ear and out the other. And so there, becomes a crisis. But they are expected to go to the Writing Center twice a semester. And I've had students on occasion come back from the Writing Center with worse papers. So,
Have
yes.
you talked to Becky about that?
Not since Becky's been there.
Oh, okay, all right.
Before. And so what I always tell them is that, one of the most important things with writing is to take a stance. Know where you're standing, know what your politics are, how they're infiltrating whatever it is that you're writing about. Because without that, you're going to be completely unfocused and all over But if what the person is telling them takes them farther afield from what their original point was, they have to take the best, leave the rest. They have to have that authority over their own work. So with regard to the Writing Center, I don't think that they should be encouraged just to be told what to do and then do it. I think that they have to be encouraged to think critically about whether this is helpful or not. And that's not any kind of disparagement about the Writing Center. It's only that that's the process of it. And they're just learning the process of it. So.
Deb, where did I see in the last 48 hours the suggested syllabus for this semester?
You got it are you coming to the syllabus design boot camp this afternoon?
I'm not able to go to that, but it's printed someplace that I saw
Yeah,
it.
so
Yep.
so it exists in a number of places, one of which is we have an open campus course called Adjuncting at Salem State.
Ooh, how do you get to
and
that,
it's a
Debbie?
repository.
How do you get to that? How do you sign up for that? Is that like to request?
It's open, you don't have to sign up for it.
How do you find it?
I'm still working on that.
Okay.
You can, it is, if you go through, the problem is the redesign of the website, right? We got a little messed up. You go through the CTIs,
Okay.
you go into the website, into the CTI, there's a link to Adjunct resources. And there is a Adjunct faculty handbook, and in the handbook is all the syllabus information, and then there's also a module in the campus course on syllabus
Great.
design. And we did try to cover the bare minimum of information that absolutely has to be on there. And so, actually, Larry, to your point, your question earlier, things like your extra credit policy should be on your syllabus.
Right.
Your attendance policy should be on your syllabus. And you just have to be really careful. I just wanted to respond to the issue I think somebody had about the failed final. You have to be really careful about making exceptions for students. Because they now have a contract with you on the syllabus.
Yeah.
And you said this is your policy. And then somebody comes to you with a sob story and you say, oh, okay, I'll let you do X. And you
And
don't
then you
let the
get-
rest of the class do
yeah.
X. And somebody else in that class finds out, they are gonna
Toast.
come at you.
Yeah.
And you really don't have a leg to stand on. So make sure, and it's hard to tell them that sometimes, but this is the policy. I was clear about that, and if I make an exception for you,
I have to make an exception for
I have to
everyone.
make an exception to the entire rest of them.
And somebody will find out.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
I give them, in terms of turning in papers too, I give them passes. They can have one late paper without their grade going down. Anything else that comes in late, they have, 4 or 5 days to turn it in. Each day that goes by, their grade goes down by. So if it's a C paper, they're going to get a D on that paper if they turn it in the second day, right? If it's an A paper and they turn it on the fourth paper, it's at best a D. So they understand that that's in the syllabus, but they do get this free pass to turn it in up to a week late without any repercussions. So that's saying to them, I am rooting for you. I so much want you to, get through this successfully and get the best possible grade that you can. And so with those kinds of policies, they're very, very well, noted on the syllabus. And so it's hard to get complaints about that. The other thing I would say that I do, that I think the students appreciated, is at the end of my syllabus, I always say, thank you in advance. Thank you so much for your hard work. And so that's sort
That's
of
a nice touch.
the reverse thing, you know, I know you're going to work hard. I know you are, because it's worth it to you. It's because that's who you are. And so, ever see that thing? This is like, shows how old I am, right? But you know, in the movie Sound of Music, where the kids, all those kids put nasty things in her bed, frogs and spiders and things. And she comes down to the dinner table and she doesn't call them out. She doesn't say anything to the father, who she knows will punish them horribly and brutally, you know. But she starts to talk about her treatment. And it was so nice of all of you to give me such a warm welcome. And I knew I could expect from such dear children as you to. And by the time she's finished going on, they're all bawling. They've all left the table. I mean, the guilt is just pouring out of their ears. It's just terrible. And so I think if, again, it's about setting the benchmark high, but really appealing to each student's best self. You know, I know you can do this.
I ask every class I have, how many of you, 'cause I was an old high school teacher, English teacher also at one point. When I ask them, I say, how many of you had to write a paper to get out of high school? And it's about a third of the students put their hands up. So how many had to write a third-page paper? A couple of hands. How many 5-page paper? A couple of hands. That's about it. It's one third at both schools coming in. It's a hell of a lot harder learning how to write when you're 18 than if you start when you're 13 or when you're 14. And I was a middle school teacher too, as well, okay? They just, high school English teachers, when questioned, they say, well, if we give them an assignment, they just download it. Each of us, when we went to high school, we had kids that downloaded, but you didn't have computers. No, they were called cheats. And the teachers slapped their ears off, and then they had to go home. They had to answer about it and so forth. And that cured pretty much downloading and cheating, you know, in our day. But they don't ask them to write, and when they get here, then, you know, it's a terrible gap, and the high schools have a lot to answer for. Oh, sorry.
Anybody have anything else? Just about out of time. So any final piece of advice, getting ready for the semester? I feel like we've done a lot of, like, let's end with something super positive. What keeps you energized? What are you really looking forward to as we get ready for the new semester?
For me personally, it's students who are in my developmental writing class who've been told they're terrible writers, they're bad writers, they can't write, they hate it, whatever. And then they come into my class, I use a theme to really engage them, they write their first piece and they see that they can. It's that first recognition of that tabula rasa, I don't have to be what these other teachers said I was, I can do this, and I can see that I can do it. So when the students start to connect with the material and get excited and see that they can, that's always that first moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I echo all of what Sandi just said. I also do, you know, I think whether it's in a classroom setting or somewhere else in your life, I think every new person that comes into our life, and we are spending a lot of time with each of these students, right? And possibly because I am teaching what I'm teaching, I get to know them so well, and I really do care about them. But each person I encounter is like a gift, right? It's kind of a Christmas morning experience. You know, what is going to be in this package? There's just so much excitement for me.
I like that analogy.
Yeah,
That is
that's
really
exactly
neat.
meeting each class,
Like
Christmas
Christmas
morning.
morning.
That's exactly what it is.
Morning, you know, that first day of class is like Christmas morning. And you know, I think I had a friend of mine who's a cop say that who children are at 5 is who they're going to be at 18 and 28 and 38. We carry certain basic elements of our personality forward with us. And in that same way, on the first day of class, you can see who these people are, you know, and then it's very complex. And I'm not talking about in terms of good or bad, you know, good or bad eggs or who's going to be I'm just talking about, it's a gift to me. So that's what I look forward to, is knowing that, you know, in another 2 weeks, I'm going to have like 70 new people in my life. That might change my life.
And that is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
I prepared a few closing remarks. The Atlantic Monthly, it isn't Atlantic Monthly anymore, it's the Atlantic. The Atlantic, September 17, and I just came across this article yesterday, it's on the newsstands too. It's not decrying, but it's talking about our kids, high school kids transitioning out. And that they don't have friends. You know, they don't date. Less than,
Yeah.
No, my grandson hasn't had a date yet.
less than 40% or something like that
Yeah.
of high school kids. This is national. These are good stats too. And it's not a beat up job. It doesn't blame parents or anything. Tremendously well written, a lot of information. And just, again, the older I get, trying to, the 17 and the 18-year-old mind, it's not like what was when for
No.
any of us. And this is just the kind of stuff the Atlantic is famous for doing and so forth. So it's worth a look-see anyway on it. If you scan it, you'll see something that's there. But some of the statistics will really knock you off your chair on.
What's it called again?
You know, it's the Atlantic Monthly.
No, I know the publication.
Have
the title of the article.
smartphones destroyed
Oh,
a generation?
I've read that. It's really good.
You seen it?
When did that, what month?
September 17th.
Cindy, can you upload a link to the Facebook group?
Can I let us-
Yeah, sure, I'll post it. Yeah, no problem. Yep.
Giggle or gargle or whatever you do, just put the Atlantic, September 17th.
Google.
I know, Joe, you're always correcting me. That's why
If
that's
you
why
go
they
to-
send Joe along with me,
If
you
you
know?
go to
Somebody has to keep you in line.
theatlantic.com,
It's-
the title of the article is Have Smartphones Destroyed a Generation? Yeah. But yeah, I can definitely post it on the Facebook group.
The
And
word-
actually, if you haven't joined our Facebook group and you're here, please do so. It's just SSU Adjunct.
Oh, there's another one I want to post. I can't think of the name of the group, but they do like a collection of this generation of the freshman class, what they've experienced and not experienced in their lives. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I can't think of it. It's like this generation has never known a landline, or this generation all lived after 9/11. So it kind of gives you the mindset. I'll post it to that because it's kind of helpful to get an insight of where they're coming from.
So you're gonna post that to the Facebook?
I'll post that to the Facebook. Yep.
The word professor comes from, well, the word professor means one who shares their faith. What faith are we sharing? That we have faith in you, my students, that you are going to be great.
Well, thank you.
Debbie, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
everybody.
Thank you, guys, you've been great.
Thank you.
Applaud yourselves.